We're to number 5, the Jacksonville Jaguars. This is one of the most interesting picks in the draft to me because it's a question of who wins out, your coach or your needs. Because there is a player that is an elite prospect that absolutely fits Jacksonville that I think they take here. There's another player that their fan base probably wants, and I'll explain why I don't have them taking him. I'm Jeremy Green of NFLDraft.net and ESPN Radio Asheville, and this is a 3-round mock draft for the Jacksonville Jaguars.
I get knocked down, I get back up.
The Sportsocracy.
And I'm unapologetic.
Jacksonville on the board here at number 5. You've had the best 2 players in the class go. That's Travis Hunter and Abdul Carter. You've had one quarterback in Shedeur Sanders and Will Campbell going at number 4 to the New England Patriots. That means there are 2 players on the board, and this is going to tell me a lot about where the Jacksonville Jaguars' new brain trust goes, because I think Liam Cohen's going to be pounding the table for the guy that I pick. I think a lot of the fan base in Jacksonville really wants Mason Graham, and there's a reason that I don't take him here, and I'll explain that with my second pick. But here at number 5, I do take Tetairoa McMillan, wide receiver out of Arizona. I think the fact that this kid was on a team that wasn't very good covers how good he actually was. 85.8 receiving grade. He was an 87.4 the year before. 1,000-yard seasons 2 years in a row, 1,300 yards both years. In 2023 and 2024. Look, this kid projects on the high side to be Mike Evans. You know that receiver that Liam Cohen just had in Tampa Bay with one of the most productive offenses in the NFL? I think he's going to see this kid and Brian Thomas. They just don't have anything else. Outside of Brian Thomas Jr., you've got Christian Kirk that you tried to trade at the trade deadline. He knows that. And you've got Gabriel Davis, who was an absolute dud last year in Jacksonville. You need another weapon in this offense. And I think they will look to add a third guy in free agency just solely because you look back at what Liam Cohen has done over his time, whether it was with the Rams or with Jacksonville, he's always had 3 receivers. I don't think Evan Ingram is enough to cover that. He might be. They might view him as a slot weapon that can kind of fill that Chris Godwin role, but you're going to need another guy on the outside, which is why at number 5, I go Tetairoa McMillan, wide receiver out of Arizona. Now, you might be thinking, why would you not take the more elite prospect? Because I do have Mason Graham one spot ahead of Tetairoa McMillan. Here's why. There's not another receiver on the board that I view as a no-doubt 1B to Brian Thomas. There are a lot of receivers in this class. There are a lot of guys that you can take in this class. Do I think you're going to get a real immediate impact player in the second round? No, I don't. And Jacksonville's second pick is at 36. Now, one of the things that I don't hear people talk about nearly enough is how good defensive tackle is in day 2. Doesn't really matter what you're looking for. In this scenario, one falls right in their lap. And it just so happens to be a guy that I really like that played with Mason Graham. Pick number 36, Kenneth Grant, defensive tackle out of Michigan. Look, this kid is an absolute dump truck. 6'3", 340 pounds, and he moves like he's about 60 pounds lighter. Do I always love his arsenal of pass rush moves? I don't. But he did have almost a 10% pass rush win rate. He was really good against the run. And I look at pairing him with Josh Hines-Allen and Trayvon Walker and all of the other pieces that Jacksonville has. I think this makes your defense really multiple. Some people think Kenneth Grant can only be a 0 tech or a 1 tech, whichever way you look at that. I don't feel that way, just solely because I watched him play in a 4-man front at Michigan. Yes, he had Mason Graham beside him. I think that's made him look better and more refined than he actually is. He is a rawer prospect than people think. In grand total, 3 years at Michigan, he played just over 1,000 snaps. That is going to be a thing with him because he's so big. But when he's on the field, he's very impactful. Kenneth Grant, to me, has the ability to turn into not quite as good of a run defender, but a considerably better pass rusher than Tampa Bay defensive tackle Vita Vea that Liam Cohen just got a really good look at in his 1 year in Tampa Bay. Pick number 36, Kenneth Grant out of Michigan. All right, that brings us to the third round. Pick number 70, Jacksonville has 2 picks in the third round. And with their first one, I'm going to fill a need. Corner has been a problem for the Jacksonville Jaguars for about as long as I can remember. Now, I do think you have one good corner in Tyson Campbell. The problem is that he's really hard to trust because he's had injury issues and he hasn't been the most consistent player. That second year in the league, he was borderline elite. Other than that, he's been largely average. So I want to pair him with another corner that I think can do what he doesn't do. And so that's why at pick 70, I'm going Maxwell Hairston, cornerback out of Kentucky. Some people will say this is too low for him. I don't think it is, because when you dig into the tape from last year, there was not a lot to love. Now, why is that? The defense for Kentucky was not nearly as good in 2024 as it had been previously. Every Kentucky defensive player in this draft had a significantly lower grade last year than they had the year previous. So I'm going back to that 2023 tape when he was really, really good. Held quarterbacks to a 67.5 passer rating. Now, if you dig deep, he was only at a 78.2 last year, which is not terrible. It's not elite. 67.5 is obviously better. But when you really dig in on Maxwell Hairston, I think there's a lot of raw talent here that just wasn't coached well. I don't know what happened at Kentucky last year, but I saw this kid just absolutely fall apart in coverage, and he had some injury issues. Now, if they don't pass him on the medical, that would change a lot of things. He only played 7 games last year, but I don't really think that's going to be a problem. I think this kid's going to go to the combine, absolutely show out. He's already done well in the pre-draft process. He's surging up boards, but I don't think he goes any higher than this. This will be a great value pick and an immediate day one starter on the opposite side of Tyson Campbell. I really like what you got out of Jerrion Jones last year. I thought you overdrafted him. I'm a Florida State guy. I didn't see that, but Jacksonville did, and he was pretty good last year. This would really solidify the secondary, and with an improved front seven with the addition of Kenneth Grant, I think you're really getting somewhere with that defense. All right, through 3 picks, I've addressed wide receiver, defensive tackle, and corner. Now I look to the offensive line. Brandon Sheriff's going into free agency. I need to replace him in some shape, form, or fashion. I'm going to do what the Carolina Panthers didn't do. I'm going to take an offensive tackle from NC State, and I'm going to play him at guard. That's why here with the 4th pick in this mock, pick number 88 overall, Anthony Belton, offensive tackle out of NC State. Now, I'm going to have to elaborate on exactly why I'm going this way. I believe Anthony Belton can come in immediately and start at right tackle. I think he can come in and start immediately at guard. He gives you a lot of flexibility. I watched this kid for 3 days in Mobile in the practices at the Senior Bowl and was absolutely dumbfounded at how much better he looked not at NC State. I'm not saying NC State was poorly coached. I'm not saying NC State wasn't good. They had really inconsistent quarterback play. We cover the ACC, so I have a really good beat on this team. I live 2.5 hours away from NC State. So I saw a lot of this team. I never really looked at him and thought, man, that's going to be a franchise left tackle. I consistently looked at him and thought the technique is good. His footwork is good. There's a lot of things to like. But then when I watched him move him around in Mobile, I realized this is one of those Zach Tom kind of players that you can just play anywhere. I don't know exactly where he's going to slot in, but I know he's going to be a good, productive NFL player. What I saw of him at guard gave me a lot of hope, and he gives you a safety net if Anton Harrison does not pan out into what you wanted him to be, because you could kick this kid out to right tackle. Pick number 88 and the final pick of this 3-round mock draft for the Jacksonville Jaguars, Anthony Belton, the offensive tackle out of NC State. Do you love these picks? Do you hate these picks? Do you just want to call me a big mulleted jackass? You can do that in the comments of this video. Any player that you want to know how I think they would have fared with Jacksonville, you can chuck that out there too. I respond to all of the comments. And I try to get to them as quick as I can. We've gotten a lot off some of our previous videos, so I will get to those as quickly as I can. Jacksonville is such an interesting team. I do think they're on the right path. And these 4 picks would definitely give them this would be an A class to me. You get the best receiver in the class, you get one of the best young defensive tackles, you get one of my favorite corners, and you get a really versatile offensive lineman. That's enough for me to think that this would be an absolute A from the Jacksonville Jaguars and would be a good start to rebuilding this team. I'm Jeremy Green of NFLDraft.net. Find all of our prospect rankings, all of these mock drafts, and all of our content ahead of we're headed to Indianapolis a week from today. The 2025 NFL Scouting Combine will be there live for every single second of it, and we'll be live from Green Bay, Wisconsin for the 2025 NFL Draft, and you can find it all right here in the Sportsocracy and at NFLDraft.net.
I'm unapologetic. Cancel, yeah, you can try. You can't cancel what's been tonight. I ain't been had a shit, no silver spoon inheritance. Tired of trying to be what other people say